open the regular meeting of the Bronxville Board of Trustees for December 9th, 2024, and ask all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As what kind of developed, our December meeting is a short one. We usually have long ones in November and very long ones in January. So I will go along with that, and the mayor's report will be fairly short as well. Just a few things of, did you notice in the village? And folks have asked about the bump out near the soccer store on Pondfield Road, and those areas that you see that are empty are actually going to be plantings. We're narrowing that intersection because people have not liked that particular intersection in terms of crossing there. So we're doing what they call now, the fancy name is a road diet, where you tighten the road so cars have to go slower. And those empty markings are actually going to be plantings. So we're actually not only going to make it more attractive, but frankly, add a decent amount of permeable surface where prior to it, it was impermeable. So I think folks would be happy. They were hoping there were plantings. The other issue is people saw that the outdoor dining sheds were taken down. That was really a cooperative working with the chamber, the food purveyors in town, the non-food merchants, and I think ours, kind of thanks to the goodness of our merchants, our outdoor dining stayed up longer than anyone's post-COVID. I mean, they've been up 4+ years, and it kind of got to the point where some of the non-food folks were saying, could we have a different balance? And so what's going to happen, the restaurants were given long notice just because I want to make sure people understood how it was fair. And people have taken, for example, La Casa and Underhills purchased structures that can be closed. They were put in pods, and they can come back in April or May, depending on what we decide, and have spring and summer outdoor dining. And I have to say, our chamber, everybody worked really well together. And I think we reclaimed for Christmas shopping 19 parking spaces, which really do help the non-food merchants. That being said, the only other thing I really wanted to talk about, it's Christmas time. Our merchants count on the next 2.5 weeks to make a great deal of their funds. We had a wonderful tree lighting, Santa visit, characters from Disney shows I don't know, but everyone seemed to like them, and it was all paid for, free hot chocolate, hats, and it was all done by our merchants and the Chamber of Commerce. And of course, I can't help but say, shop local, it is the best bargain. Last year, if you bought everything on Amazon, village taxes would have gone up 12.5% because of what we get in sales tax from Westchester County. So our side of the tax bill would have had to gone up 12.5%. And our local merchants are 300 times more charitable per capita than any mail order or big box store. As I sometimes yell at all our wonderful schools and churches when they're looking for raffle prizes, I say go to Jeff Bezos and get the prizes. So anyway, shop local. Honestly, it's the biggest bargain. Thank you. And did I forget anything? Oh, we have one other important event is the menorah lighting on the 26th, Leonard Morange Park at 6 p.m. Okay, anything else? No? Am I, yeah? Okay. Our trustee Fredericks is not with us tonight because his day job took him to San Francisco. So he's out there working today. And on to you, Mr. Palmer.
I will just mention, as a follow-up to what you mentioned on those improvements, if residents do want to see or anyone in the community wants to see the full set of plans for those improvements that we'll be making over the winter, the sidewalk and curbing and bump out improvements, they're on the village website under the trustees page, pedestrian initiatives. And the next location will be at Park Place and Craft, doing the same thing, bumping out the curbing, allowing for some planting, and again, that shrinks the length of the crosswalk, reducing the pedestrians' exposure in the crosswalk. In the case of Craft and Park Place, there'll be another nice little median on Craft, heading southbound as you approach Park Place.
Hey,
and then they will go to the west side, sorry.
Will that work start before before the holidays? I mean, before the Christmas? Or will it start after the New Year?
There's a very good chance if they continue going on, if they finish up the island this week, they might be able to go and mobilize and do that spot and then go to the west side. So they're not going to be working at Christmas or Christmas Eve, but we're going to try to, they're very good at, they've already actually cut the curving, but they're very good at trying to make sure they keep traffic flowing and somewhat weather dependent, but from there to Park Place and Craft, and then over to the west side where we've had those stanchions for over the past year. We'll be finishing that up. So, but hopefully they can get a little bit more done before the holiday. The only other piece I wanted to mention is just to ask everyone to look at the calendar. Of course, village offices will be closed on Christmas Day. New Year's Day will also close early on Christmas Eve, on New Year's Eve. This week, Saturday specifically, is the last day for the use of the gas-powered leaf blowers. Again, this is all in the, also in the newsletter, so reminder that, yes, the use of the gas-powered leaf blower ends on the December 15th. And the board has scheduled an executive session for this Wednesday at 9 a.m. to conduct police interviews for those 2 additional police officer positions. Just wanted to mention that. And I also did send out an email to the Hamilton residents in the Hamilton Sussex neighborhood, just updating them of some test pits that are going to be performed this for the future drainage improvements, catch basin installations. This follows my walkthrough with our engineer and the Con Ed team. And I explained in the email the purpose of the test pits, just very small, 4 feet by 4 feet at most, cut into the blacktop, just to confirm the depth and exact location for one of the water lines and one of the gas lines. And I'll send it.
So you're making those test pits to make sure there's no other pipes there?
Yes, and just to confirm the exact location, because markouts are always not. So what I tried to identify for the residents are just where those 4 by 4 test pits will be done. So we weren't able to confirm the exact location of all the lines. So that's the purpose of doing those test pits. Yeah. And then likewise, so those were identified for that group. There's going to be a test pit that needs to be done, for example, on the southeast corner of Hamilton at Sussex, one along Sussex, one on Argyle, one in Hamilton. And I'll send another separate email out to the Homesdale neighborhood. The only test pit that's going to be done there is down on Locust at the intersection of Homesdale. So again, just test pits to confirm the location of either the gas line or the water line. And then the future schedule for when those catch basins will take place will be in the new year. It's not going to be taking place before, just those test pits I mentioned. That's it.
And I had forgotten two things on the bottom of my sheet. Tomorrow, correct, is voting for a town fire commissioner. It's voting at Village Hall only from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. There's 3 gentlemen running from Eastchester and Tuckahoe. And, honestly, regrettably, we're 30% of the budget, but we don't have a Bronxville resident on the fire board. But the vote is tomorrow for everyone here at Village Hall, 2 to 9. And ending on a really nice note, our former village justice and resident George McInnes and Vito Pinto, our wonderful friend, veteran, and neighboring resident, both were inducted into the Westchester County Senior Hall of Fame. So congratulations to George and Vito.
Well deserved.
Yes, yeah, they both have such decades of service, so you're right, well deserved. All right, then I will move on to approval of the minutes. Mary Ann, you did a great job, given you went away to Florida for a while. You did a terrific job. I have to give her a hard time because I'm jealous. They're terrific minutes, and I need a motion to approve those, the executive work session minutes of November 12th and the regular meeting minutes of the same date. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thanks again, Mary Ann.
Mary Ann, I have one small thing I'll share with you.
All right, Mr. Palmer, new business. We have 5 things tonight. The first is authorization of security cameras, but we're getting the money through a grant, correct?
That same technology grant that we've been trying down
Right.
at the police station. Yep.
And they will be covering Craft Avenue at Cedar, the Craft Avenue lot, and the West Side traffic circle. And our quote,
Are those replacing cameras or are these new cameras?
are these upgrades or brand new? I thought they were a mixture.
Yes, I think the upgrades and then also a new one.
Yeah. And that's $12,033.15.
Believe it or not, some of the equipment is already getting outdated, and we're also, instead of using more manual connections, the department has been working on doing point-to-point to be able to access the data more quickly, more efficiently, so, yep.
Just before I put that for motion, I just want to mention, so many people mentioned to me, why don't we invest in speed enforcement cameras? And the New York State doesn't allow us. They allow cities only, and it's kind of home rule legislation. Places like Yonkers can do it, New York City can do it, and I believe Syracuse can do it.
I figure out what happened, how Pelham Manor got theirs.
I think they got their local their representative to put in a home rule bill.
Just a specific exception for that one.
Exactly, yeah. And so at this juncture, the law, unless we do something with our local reps, the law it does not allow us to do it.
The best thing we can do right now is collect the data, but when the time comes, yet those other individual ones, they've had a lot of data that they demonstrated the case that.
Good point. They made a big case for themselves.
I was wondering what do we think, for example, our biggest one here with Pondfield and Midland, do we
I think it's
the number of
important.
crossings? Is it the number of cars that go through on a
I think it's accident data, and as I understand it, we, well, first we have a limited number of signals, but then, as I understand it, the Midland and Pondfield would potentially be a candidate, but as I understand it from discussing the accident data with the chief, it's the intersection functions very well as is.
I didn't realize it was accidents was the main factor. That was
Yeah.
just the traffic and the people might just go through it without
Yeah.
stopping.
All right, so do I have a motion to move ahead with using the grant money for these security cameras?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
How much do we have left of that grant after this,
Yeah, that
more or
was-
less? Do we still have any?
Oh, good question.
Lori's not here.
I can get you that number, I'm not sure. I think there's still a significant amount of monies left, so, yep. Because it was for over 100,000, really. You've been buying cameras in chunks of $12,000, $13,000, but I can get you the exact amount.
All right, the second resolution is the adoption of our 2025 calendar. The only difference, it's always the second Monday of the month, but I know it's the Tuesday in October and the Tuesday in November. And is February the normal date?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so it's
Yes.
only 2 Tuesdays, and they're October and November.
I'll move it.
Okay, and a second.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And now we're authorizing the appointment of Derek Smith to the Public Works Department. And Jim, do you want to talk a little bit about Derek's experience with us?
Sure, he's, as we tried to do with all our new hires, we utilize them as a seasonal labor before we bring them on board full-time
Right.
to see how they do. But Derek's very energetic young man. He's worked for us for over 6 months. He has his, he showed initiative and got his commercial driver's license, and he's also a resident of the village. So, but the DPW foreman, Victor Lima, is absolutely thrilled with him, so we're real pleased.
And, you know, it's a real bonus for us because a lot of our wonderful gentlemen, you know, live far away, and this gentleman is right here. So during emergencies, it's incredibly helpful. So Derek brings tons of things, and his local residency is a big help to us in emergencies. So I will move this. Do I have a second?
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion passes. All right, Mr. Palmer, do you want to talk about, it's a resolution to adopt an erosion and sediment control and stormwater management policy.
Sure,
And
yeah.
basically, the overriding reason is a lot of residents who suffer flooding or feel perhaps their neighbor's property caused changes in their property, wanted us on the government side to be a little proactive in how we protect, manage, give out permits in terms of the relationship to flood control. So with that as sort of the thesis, do you want to give a few?
Sure, and we do have a stormwater management and a erosion
Right.
control policy in place now, and we do have a law currently in the village code. However, the purpose of this is to make it more restrictive. But as an MS4, we were required to adopt certain standards which the village had done. But now we're making it more restrictive, specifically for the erosion and sediment controls, for any area of disturbance over, soil disturbance over 1,000 square feet. This policy will require that property owners, contractors have a sediment and erosion control plan. What does that mean? At the end of the day, it means that they need to show how they're going to secure the site so that that 1,000 feet of disturbance does not then, i.e. the dirt, the debris, does not flow onto a neighbor's property. And that means a plan that shows the appropriate silt fencing, hay bales. This is something that's very important to the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and us, and something that we've been grappling with, because if a site is not properly secure, then that dirt runs down the street or a neighbor's property, could eventually go into our catch basin, and this has been something that we've made an effort to reduce. typically the state has required as little as 1 acre area disturbance having that silt fencing. But of course, in our case, in communities throughout Westchester, they're lowering that standard because obviously our lots are a lot smaller. And if you're within 5 feet of your neighbor's property and you're disturbing it, obviously can have an impact. So our new consultants, engineering consultants, who are also stormwater experts, reviewed our existing code, looked at other communities, I should say, and this was their recommendation. And this is also what we've been using, and frankly, the building department has been using, and the community has been largely in support of that. So again, the first piece is area of disturbance. That is, someone's excavating their entire front yard. If there's more than 1,000 feet, then they should come in with either a landscape architect or professional engineer's layout of where the silt fencing is going to go and how they're going to control that site from eroding out into the roadway. The second piece is when there's a change in lot coverage, we're requiring that a professional engineer draw up a stormwater plan, and we list the requirements that actually show some soil testing and a stormwater design showing how the property owner is going to be able to capture and retain the water on site. And this is, again, not inconsistent with our neighboring communities for an area of greater than 100 square feet of disturbance. So, I'm sorry, of development coverage. So a homeowner is putting on a new garage that's greater than 100 square feet. So that now would require a stormwater management plan because there's no longer a permeable surface. So again, this is also available on the village website under the building department, on the building department page where we have the existing stormwater application. So those are principally the two requirements: 1,000 square feet of disturbance for someone simply not necessarily developing their site, but say tree clearing, shrub removal, and then the other is requiring an engineer or a professional landscape architect do designs when more than 100 square feet of development coverage is being done on the property.
So we're essentially tightening the area in which you can affect slope or permeable surface and requiring a flood plan. Is that sort of basically?
Exactly.
Okay.
And it spells out, this takes into account a certain methodology, engineering methodology that needs to be done, type of storm events, and the engineer will also take into account the soil conditions, because as we know, the soil conditions can vary from one section of the village to another, and all that would affect the potential stormwater runoff from the development coverage. Yeah.
And I will move that because a lot of our residents asked us to be a little more vigilant in how we gave out permits vis-a-vis the effect on permeable surface. So I will move it, and do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion passes.
And then I should say, then we'll just work with council to amend the existing chapter of the village code that references this section. Yeah.
And then our last new business is the adoption of a fund balance policy. This is something that I think the state, the comptroller, our accountant recommends is just good policy to maintain certain levels of unexpended funds. So if you want to talk about the specifics of what we all agreed to do as our policy.
Sure. And for the public's edification, this too is also available on the village website under the treasurer's page, where we also make available the village's financial statements and budget. But yes, and I appreciate the time that the board spent on reviewing this. The village has a very healthy fund balance. We have a very healthy unassigned fund balance. And it's the New York State Comptroller's recommendation that communities have a policy evaluating their fund balance from time to time. And what this resolution states is that should the village's unassigned fund balance ever reach 25%, then you would direct the treasurer and myself as administrator to take immediate steps with a plan of action to restore fund balance to at least 25%.
Jim, for context, you might mention where we are today relative to 25%?
And
Sure.
our bond rating and what the bond rating.
Sure,
plans
and
are.
right, and all these pieces are, so our unassigned fund balance now, thanks to another great year with some one-shot revenues that we don't budget for, that we did not plan for, but they had, and coming in slightly below budget, our unassigned fund balance is at 50%. So, but what the controller absolutely wants to see is that communities have a plan should there be a time when we do get close to 25%, are we going to make an effort to restore it? We should clarify Moody's, which has us rated as a AAA bond community. There's only 2 other villages within Westchester that also have a AAA bond rating. Moody's looks to see that that fund balance is no less than 30 to 35%. So, but again, we wanted to have a trigger in the event that it went a little lower. The board went one step further, and within the policy, it goes on to say that should the fund balance exceed 40%, which it has right now, that the board would take efforts to look at assigning some of that fund balance to categories that the New York State Comptroller recommends, where there are projected significant future increases, i.e. employee benefits, employee health insurance, retirement costs. So the policy that the board has, the resolution before you tonight, since our fund balance is at 50%, the treasurer and I are recommending that we do assign certain monies as follows, which would bring the unassigned fund balance to closer to 42%. And what we've recommended here is $1 million be assigned for capital projects, $200,000 for pension liabilities, $200,000 for health insurance liabilities, and we've also recommended a total of $600,000 be allocated for a tax stabilization reserve, which you had created years ago, and we have been using strategically over the past few years to reduce that tax burden. The tax stabilization fund, like the others, are specifically identified what they can be applied to. So, did I explain that carefully?
Yeah.
Just a clarification, I thought in terms of our accountant and Moody's that to keep our AAA bond rating, you needed between 25, not 35.
Well, so what I had circulated to was for, so Moody's has different strata depending on what your rating is, but for AAA communities, they like to see a higher unassigned fund balance than the 25%. And that's the 30 to 35%.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
does it start to go down? But again, AAA bond rating, highest level means lowest possible risk. And for that, they want to see
Okay.
They want to see more.
No, I
And-
wasn't disagreeing,
yeah,
I was just trying to,
But I mean, and again, years ago, it used to be, frankly, the controller's guidance might have been a heck of a lot less, but the fact of the matter is, I think, well, we also all learned a lot during the pandemic.
yeah, because at
Anyway.
one time when we first reached the AAA, 15 was the number that got us over the line. That's why I asked.
Yep, and all
okay.
those, and again, all those numbers have gone up because even just something with the pandemic, it's, as we talked about, 5 percentage points is $1 million, and that can be, the $1 million can be used up rather quickly. But the good news is the village is at a real positive place. The Controller's Office recommends a policy, and as we discussed, this can be looked at annually, and when we close out next fiscal year, on May 31, we can evaluate where we are once again at that point in time.
I think it's a strong policy. It sets us guidelines on the lower end and the upper end, and I think the 25% doesn't mean that's where we're
We don't want to get
going
right.
there.
Yes, that's-
It's just a trigger.
Right.
So, and just helps us think through
emergency
more
trigger.
carefully on, the 25, and then if we go above 40,
To
just
trigger also,
rationalizes,
yeah.
the thinking around
As
that.
a board and as a village, we're proud to be a AAA-rated
Yeah.
village. And
Yeah.
we're one of few, as Jim mentioned, in Westchester, and that continues to be our unstated goal, right? So
And it
I
has,
think stated,
yeah,
stated goal, right?
because it has affected our interest rates
Yeah.
greatly on our projects, so it really has helped us. All right, would someone like to move that?
I will.
In a second.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And thank you, Mr. Palmer and Lori Boss, our treasurer, for, really working on this, because
Further
this,
strengthening our already very tight policies.
Yes,
around
yeah.
budgets and-
No, I appreciate that, and as you had stated too, you had requested that the village, that we also draft an investment policy, which we have, and I will follow up and share that with the finance committee and set up a meeting with them so we can further dive into that. It's a little bit deeper, but again, you have identified, and the investment policy identifies the financial institutions that the village does business with, the amounts. Those are part of something that the board approves at the annual meeting. However, simply putting a policy available to the public so they can see that, yes, the village does require that banks ensure that our assets are covered at least up to 100%, even 102%. Those kind of details are on that. So more to follow on that in 2025.
all right. Would anyone in the public like to speak on any topic? All right, seeing no one, trustees, did we forget anything?
Do we just want to wish everybody a happy holidays and
Yeah.
happy end of 2024, and looking forward to
Happy
2025?
shopping.
Yes, and
Happy shopping. Yes, happy holidays to everybody watching, and we will see you on January 13th. So I need a motion to close our meeting. In a second.
Bob usually does.
Yeah. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion passes. See you in 2025.